The moment the cold water hit my 6-month-old son's face, the entire table went silent. Not the silence of shock. The silence of habit. And that silence told me everything I needed to know about the family I had spent my whole life making excuses for. My name is Emily. My husband Mark had just come home from months away on deployment. All I wanted was one peaceful Christmas. One real memory. One night where my son Liam could be held and kissed and fussed over by people who were supposed to love him. Instead, I got a ring light by the fireplace, camera tripods in the dining room, and my brother Ryan grinning at his phone like Christmas dinner was a production set. Because to him, it was. I should have turned around the second we walked through the door. But I told myself I was overthinking it. I told myself what I had been trained to tell myself my entire life. Let Ryan be Ryan. I would never make that mistake again. Liam started fussing before dinner was even served. He was overtired. 6 months old, overstimulated, rubbing his little eyes with his fists and making those soft warning sounds every parent learns to recognize fast. I reached for him. My mother told me to wait. I reached again when he escalated. Ryan kept narrating to his camera. Kept adjusting his angle. Kept talking about keeping the energy up for the stream. Then my son's cries got louder. And Ryan, without warning, without hesitation, grabbed a glass of ice water from the table and flung it directly into my baby's face. Liam went silent for one horrible second. Then he screamed. Ryan laughed. Actually laughed. Looked straight at me and said, "Relax, Emily. It was water, not acid." And the table just sat there. My father stared at his plate. My mother made a soft, nervous sound. Nobody moved. Nobody said a word. Except Mark. My husband did not raise his voice. That was what unsettled everyone the most. He stood up slowly. Walked to Liam's high chair. Lifted my son against his chest, pressed him close, checked his face while Liam sobbed in broken, exhausted waves. The whole room was watching Mark now. Not Ryan. Mark. And in that calm, steady voice that meant he had already made a decision he would not reverse, Mark looked at my brother and said 3 words. "You need to leave." Ryan blinked. Actually blinked like he'd misheard. My mother stepped in immediately, that familiar panic in her voice, saying Ryan had only gone too far because he was trying to keep the mood light. My father muttered that nobody needed to ruin Christmas over one stupid moment. One stupid moment. My son was soaked and trembling. His tiny shirt wet through. His lashes clumped together with water. His whole body shaking in my husband's arms. And my father called it one stupid moment. Ryan tried to recover. Said the stream was still running. Said his audience loved authentic family moments. Said people online had a better sense of humor than I did. Mark handed me the diaper bag and said, "Get Liam's blanket. We're leaving." I wish I had made a speech. I wish I had looked every one of them in the eye and said exactly what I thought. But the truth is I was too stunned. Too ashamed that I had brought my son into that house at all. As we reached the door, Ryan called after us. Said I was proving his point. Said I had always been too sensitive, too uptight, too eager to play the victim. Then my mother asked me not to make this bigger than it was. And something inside me cracked open. I turned around. I looked at her. And I asked her how much smaller it needed to be before she would care. She had no answer. Nobody did. Outside, the cold Colorado air hit my face. And for the first time all night, I could breathe. By the time we pulled into our driveway at Fort Carson, I had made a decision too. She said, "Babies cry." I said, "Babies do not deserve to have cold water thrown in their faces because a grown man is losing control of a live stream." She got quiet and said I was using very dramatic language. Dramatic language. Those two words were my entire childhood summarized. Every time Ryan pushed too far. Every time I said, "This is not okay," my reaction became the problem. Not his behavior. My reaction. Then she suggested that becoming a first-time mom had made me more reactive than usual. That having a military husband probably made everything feel more intense. There it was. Not Ryan threw water at a baby. Not why did nobody stop him. Just maybe you're hormonal and your husband is rigid. I hung up. My father called an hour later. Gentler. In some ways worse, because he always hid behind reasonableness. He said Ryan was embarrassed. He said people in the comments had noticed the stream cutting off suddenly. He said Ryan had sponsor obligations. Sponsor. Obligations. I asked my father whether he hurt himself. My son had been used like a prop. And his concern was that a man in his 30s might miss a brand deadline. My father sighed and said, "Emily. Brothers mess around. It was water. You're acting like he hit him." I went completely still. My mind flashed to the sound Liam made when the water hit him. That split second of stunned silence before the screaming started. Ryan hadn't struck my son with his hand. But he had used fear and humiliation on a 6-month-old for content. I told my father that if he genuinely believed that was normal, he would never be alone with my child. He got offended. Which told me more than any apology ever could have. Ryan waited until late afternoon to call. He liked timing. He liked catching people tired. Catching them when they wanted peace badly enough to mistake manipulation for sincerity. His voice was warm. Casual. Like we were siblings getting over a misunderstanding. He said I had made him look abusive in front of his own family. He said he was trying to keep the stream moving because Liam's crying had hijacked the energy in the room. He said the water was meant to be a quick reset. A reset. My son was 6 months old. Not a glitchy microphone. Then he said if I hadn't exploded the way I did, nobody would have thought it was such a big deal. That was when the cold clarity finally settled over me. He was not sorry. He was annoyed. Annoyed his joke failed. Annoyed that Mark had controlled the room. Annoyed that I had not joined the family tradition of pretending his cruelty was charm. I ended the call. Sat on the nursery floor while Liam napped. And I opened a notebook and started writing down everything. Every word. Every expression. Every excuse. Every call. By that night I had 3 full pages of notes and a new feeling I couldn't name at first. Then I recognized it. Pattern recognition. And once I saw the pattern, I could not unsee it. 2 days after Christmas, my younger sister Brooke texted me 3 words. Check Ryan's page. I opened his TikTok first. Then YouTube. He had posted an edited cut of the Christmas stream. Titled Family Challenge Goes Off the Rails. The clip opened with warm lighting, laughter, cozy holiday music. Everything Ryan was good at arranging. Then it cut to Liam crying, except the audio had been trimmed to make the crying sound shorter and less distressed. The water splash was barely visible. Just a quick motion. Then me, standing up off camera. Text overlay across the screen, some people can't take a joke. The comments were full of strangers defending him. Overprotective moms ruin everything. Military husband sounds controlling. Some people are too soft for real family fun. I stared at my phone until the screen dimmed. Ryan had done what he always did. He took the ugliest thing he had done, trimmed away the context, and turned himself into the wounded, funny guy who got punished for being spontaneous. Mark came home from base that evening. Found me at the table with my laptop open, screenshots everywhere, Liam asleep against my shoulder. He didn't tell me to calm down. He didn't tell me to stay off social media. He read every caption, every comment, every reply where Ryan hinted I had been unstable since having the baby. Then he looked at me and said 2 words. Save everything. So I did. I went back through years of Ryan's content. And the more I looked, the worse it got. He had built an entire audience on the idea that our family was chaotic in a lovable way. Loud but loyal. Sarcastic but close. In truth, most of us barely saw him unless there was a holiday, a birthday, or a filming opportunity. He had reposted old photos to make it look like we spent more time together than we ever did. He used footage from my wedding for a relationship content series without asking me. He filmed our grandmother's funeral reception and turned it into a video about cherishing the people you love. I had told myself back then that he just processed life differently. Looking at it now, I understood what he actually was. He didn't experience family. He harvested it. Every memory was raw material. Every private moment had market value. Every person in the room was either useful to the narrative or in the way of it. That Christmas, Liam was never my son to Ryan. He was a production problem. Brooke called me instead of texting that night. I could hear in her breathing that she had been holding something back for a long time. She told me she had helped Ryan edit videos years earlier when she was trying to freelance as a photographer. And there was one thing she had never told anyone. How often he cut around the truth. If a kid cried before the joke landed, he removed it. If an adult got angry for a valid reason, he left out what triggered it. If something looked worse on playback than he expected, he reframed it with music and captions until he came out looking playful and everyone else looked unstable. I asked Brooke why she had never said anything. She was quiet for several seconds. Then she said, because nobody in that house ever wanted the full truth if the full truth made Ryan look bad. Then she said the one sentence that made my whole body go cold. Emily, Aunt Linda has been afraid of something like this happening with a baby for years. I called Linda the next morning. Before she even finished saying hello, I heard something in her voice. Relief. Like she had been waiting for me to ask the right question for a very long time. She didn't ease into it. She didn't say she might be mistaken. She said, I have watched your brother frighten children for laughs since he was 14. And every adult in that family told themselves it was harmless because admitting otherwise would have required them to do something. Then she started giving me examples. Specific ones. Real ones. A 4th of July barbecue where Ryan dumped a cooler of ice water over a cousin's 5-year-old because the boy wouldn't repeat a line for a prank video. A birthday party where he locked 2 younger kids in a laundry room so he could film their reaction when they came out crying. A Thanksgiving where he kept shoving whipped cream toward a toddler's face for a funny shot and got angry when the child screamed instead of laughing. Every single time, somebody explained it away. He's immature. He's creative. Boys are rougher. Kids are resilient. The phrases changed. The pattern never did. Linda told me she had tried twice to confront my mother about it. Both times, my mother cried and said Ryan just had an unusual personality and people were always too hard on him. I contacted 2 cousins with young children. I didn't accuse. I didn't dramatize. I simply asked whether Ryan had ever made them uncomfortable around their kids. The answers came faster than I expected. One cousin said she had never allowed Ryan to babysit, though she had never admitted the reason out loud. Another said her daughter had cried for hours after a family wedding because Ryan splashed soda in her face during a reception joke. And when she complained, my mother said she was encouraging oversensitivity in the next generation. By then I wasn't collecting stories anymore. I was uncovering a system. Ryan did what he wanted. Children got frightened. Adults minimized it. Victims were told to stop being dramatic. Then life moved on until the next holiday gave him a new stage. The most painful part was realizing how many times I had almost seen it and talked myself out of trusting my instincts. I was 16 when I watched Ryan taunt a neighbor kid with a fake snake until the boy wet himself. And somehow by the end of the night, I was the one apologizing for making things awkward by saying it was cruel. My mother used to say Ryan just had a bigger personality than me. I used to think that meant I was smaller. Now I understood what it actually meant. It meant I was expected to make room for his damage. Ryan's lawyer letter arrived by certified mail on a gray Thursday afternoon. I knew what it was before I even opened it. Pressure in formal language. Shame on expensive paper. It accused me of making false statements that were harming his business, damaging sponsor relationships, and interfering with future opportunities. It demanded I stop sharing defamatory claims and preserve family privacy. Family privacy. They were suddenly very interested in privacy now that the truth was expensive. I sat at the kitchen table and read it twice. Then handed it to Mark, who read it once and said, "He's scared." That was the first moment since Christmas dinner that I smiled. Because he was right. Men like Ryan only reach for legal threats when charm stops working. When guilt stops working. When family pressure stops working. I called an attorney Linda recommended. A woman named Janet Morrison, who specialized in family law and civil harassment cases. She listened without interrupting while I walked her through everything. Christmas dinner. The calls. The edited video. The statements from relatives. The history Linda had given me. When I finished, Janet said, "Truth is not defamation. And documented truth is even better." Then she asked the one question nobody in my family had ever asked. What outcome do you want? Not revenge. Outcome. I told her I wanted Ryan kept away from my son. And I wanted the parents in our extended family to know enough to make their own informed decisions about their children. Janet said that was sane, measured, and easy to defend. So we built a response. We didn't threaten theatrics. We didn't play online warfare. We sent a formal reply stating that any statements I had made were factual, privately communicated, and supported by witness accounts and video evidence. We also put Ryan on notice that he had used family likenesses and family events in monetized content without consent. And that if he escalated publicly, we were prepared to address that too. Silence would have been easier for him. Court would have been catastrophic. At Janet's suggestion, I prepared a packet for family members with young children. Just facts. A timeline of the Christmas incident. A still image from the stream. A short summary of Ryan's edited repost. Written statements from Linda and 2 cousins. I did not tell anyone what to do. I did not tell anyone to cut him off. I simply gave them what our family had denied each other for years. Real information. The reaction was immediate. One aunt called crying because she said she had always felt uneasy leaving Ryan alone with her youngest son and had thought she was being unfair to him. One cousin thanked me for saying out loud what she had swallowed for a decade. Another relative accused me of trying to destroy the family and said no good mother would drag private conflict through the mud. I asked her whether good mothers were supposed to stay quiet when someone treated a baby like a prop. She had no answer. Then the sponsors started moving. I never contacted them directly. But Ryan's panic made it obvious that something had shifted. One brand quietly removed his holiday collaboration post. Another suspended comments on a giveaway video. Brooke later told me Ryan was frantically calling people, claiming a bitter family member was trying to sabotage him with exaggerated stories. But his usual strategy had a problem this time. Too many people already knew too much. Too many witnesses had finally compared notes. And most of all, Ryan had made the fatal mistake of giving the truth a digital trail. The edited repost didn't help him. It destroyed him. Because once people started asking what had been cut out, the answer became impossible to contain. Ryan came to my house just after dark on a Sunday. I saw him through the front window before he even knocked. Pacing on the porch in a coat thrown over indoor clothes, face already flushed, jaw set with the kind of fury he had never needed to control before because nobody had ever made him. Mark looked at me once. Then stepped toward the door with his phone already in his hand, already recording. He opened the door, but did not invite Ryan in. Ryan didn't bother with greetings. He launched straight into it. Said I was sick. Said I had poisoned the family against him. Said I was costing him deals, meetings, money, momentum. Not once did he ask how Liam was. Not once did he say he regretted anything. He talked about numbers. Reach. Brand safety. Engagement rates. Then he said the sentence that ended every last shred of ambiguity. He said, "Do you have any idea how much that Christmas live could have made me if your kid hadn't ruined it?" My whole body went cold. But Mark stayed completely steady. He asked Ryan to repeat what he had just said. Ryan was too angry to notice the trap. He kept going. Said the splash was nothing. Said Liam needed to stop screaming. Said every family made sacrifices for each other. Mark told him to leave immediately and warned him that if he came back unannounced again, we would treat it as harassment. Ryan called me heartless. Then looked past Mark straight at me and said I had always been jealous because nobody cared about my quiet little life until I married a man in uniform and had a baby. There it was. Not just entitlement. Contempt. He had never seen me as family the way he saw himself. I was supporting cast. Background. A useful contrast that made him shine brighter. He left still shouting, tires spinning as he backed out of the driveway. Mark closed the door. Stopped the recording. Set his phone on the kitchen counter without a word. We both knew what we had now. Not just proof of anger. Proof of motive. Within 2 weeks, the consequences Ryan had spent years dodging started arriving all at once. The largest sponsor tied to his family content ended their relationship. Another company paused a trial campaign that had been in negotiation. His holiday challenge series stopped trending. His follower count began bleeding. People who once defended him started asking why every explanation he gave made him sound worse, not better. Brooke cut contact after he tried to blame her for leaking old footage. Two cousins with young children told the family in plain terms that Ryan would not be allowed near their kids at any future gathering. My mother tried one final round of emotional blackmail and said I was tearing the family apart. For the first time in my life, I answered without shaking. I told her the family was not being torn apart by the person telling the truth. It was being torn apart by the truth itself. 6 months later, Liam took his first real steps across our backyard in late afternoon light while Mark and I sat on the patio and watched him wobble toward us with that wild baby determination that makes you laugh and cry at the same time. No cameras. No forced reactions. No one telling him to do it again for a better angle. Just grass and sunlight and two parents cheering like the moment was enough exactly as it was. Because it was. Ryan's channel still existed. But the version of it he had built on the illusion of a warm, chaotic, lovable family was gone. He posted travel clips for a while. Then motivational content. Then a heavily edited apology video that somehow still managed to make him sound like the victim of a misunderstanding. It didn't bring back what he lost. Some people in my family still tiptoed around the subject. But they stopped defending him to me. My father became quieter than ever. My mother started therapy. Brooke and I became closer than we had been in years. Not because everything was magically healed, but because we were finally standing in the same reality. And that, after everything, was enough. Here's what I need you to understand. Love is not asking the vulnerable person to be more flexible so the harmful person can stay comfortable. Love is protection. Love is truth. Love is being willing to make the room awkward, the holiday tense, the relatives angry, if that is what keeping a child safe requires. Families can normalize almost anything if enough people benefit from pretending it is harmless. That is why your instincts matter. That is why the moment in your gut when something feels wrong is the most important moment in the room. Children do not need adults who protect the family image. They need adults who protect them. And if you have ever had to choose between keeping the peace and keeping your child safe, I hope you choose your child. Every single time. Because that choice may feel lonely in the moment. But it can protect more lives than you will ever fully know.